Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Rob Nelson is here with one of my favorite people in the ninja world. And I say that for all of our guests, but the truth is I'm blessed to have a bunch of remarkable people in my life. And one of them is Erik Zimmerman. So Erik, I want you to say hello, and then I want to tell your story for you to see how close I get it.
Great to be with you, Rob.
Thank you. And Erik, you are a unique person in the ninja world. You're an OG, been at this since 2009 or something. I'll let you correct that. But you're also one of the few team members who is a ninja selling coach, a ninja leadership coach, a ninja selling instructor, and a ninja leadership instructor. How in the world did Erik Zimmerman get all those credentials and have the experience to do all of those things?
Well, you stick around long enough and then you get asked to do different things, right? And so that's how it's happened. I've always just embraced what I would call Ninja Headquarters is putting out. I love the systems. I love the way of being, the way of life. Fits perfectly with where I am today. And anything I can do to grow the ninja path for people, that's what I'm willing to do.
You didn't mention that in parallel to many years on the ninja path, you have been you started in real estate as a successful investor. You became a manager, and not just a manager, but the manager of one of the top offices in your organization. Give us your bio and overlay sort of how ninja propelled you forward in success in many areas of your career.
Yeah, appreciate that, Rob. I was what I was called an accidental agent from 92 to 97, got recruited to a new company, went there, sold successfully from 97 to 2000, at which time I was asked to be an accidental manager. They didn't use those words, but I was not trained for what I was being asked to do. 2000 to 2009, I did the best I could. I call it in our industry, there's a lot of adult babysitting. That's what a lot of managers do. They have an open door policy. They help their people, that kind of thing. 2009, I got introduced to Ninja, and I really developed not only a goal, but a dream. What would happen if we could get a great number of our agents to go out to Fort Collins and experience the Ninja installation? And then the dream got bigger. What would happen if they came to us? In November of 2010, we were the first organization outside the state of Colorado to have an installation. And I was one of 72 people that went through that. And I knew at that point my life and my business were going to change. Shortly after that, I developed another dream, and that was to become an instructor. And I say very openly, I got the call to go out to Colorado and be put in front of a big camera and a bright light, and I was terrible. I was just awful. So I like to say they drugged me in the back, they showed me the video, and they said, that's not you. What we want you to do is share the passion that you have for this program that we know you're using to change businesses and change lives. And from that point forward, I'm so grateful for you, for Lauren, for Eric Thompson, for Don Tennyson. Don was a great mentor of mine. And then Ninja Central said, you want to go to Calgary, Alberta, Canada twice in February. And it was clear that I was, had the short stick. But, Rob, all kidding aside, at this point, I believe every time I meet with somebody or every time I speak to a group of people, I believe there's an opportunity to change somebody's life. That's what causes me to skip to the shower in the morning.
Yeah, you're a passionate guy through and through, and I appreciate you being here. Erik, how's it going today?
Rob, some people that really know me well know that I hate answering that question because the answer always seems to be the same. Good, fine, wonderful, okay, doing well. How about you? And it just is so shallow that I don't even answer. My relatives will tell you, I have to come up with a good question to ask Uncle Erik because he's not going to ask, how's it going? Answer that question.
And that is exactly what we're here to talk about today. It's funny, ironic that we're here to talk about questions. But if you've never seen it, there is a very viral social media reel with Erik Zimmerman on a soapbox talking about how ridiculous the question of how's it going or how you doing today really is. And it's what you just said. People are going to give you this in the box answer, and it's not going to start a conversation. And one of the things I've noticed about Erik Zimmerman is he is not just a good questionnaire. Questionnaire is a term that I believe belongs to Peter Parnik. In his book, he used that, but it's exactly who you are. He's a great questionnaire. And that didn't happen on accident. You have completely engineered the way you ask questions to solicit responses that are going to lead to meaningful conversation. And all of this is rooted in Ninja Habit number 8. So last week, I introduced that you had an encounter with your physical therapist's assistant, I believe. And what somebody who you've come across many times in your life, never really engaged in conversation with her. And you decided to play the game, right? How do I get her to open up? And I'm going to ask her about what she's got going on this summer. We'll enter this with a little bit of small talk about how hot the weather is and what she'd rather be doing. She'd rather be on her pontoon boat. So if you didn't catch that, listen to last week. But all of it is by design. So, Erik, I want you to talk a little bit about how you design the questions that you ask and how you've seen this evolve in your own life from okay questions to questions that start a conversation to questions that really uncover what's going on with people.
Tongue in cheek, Rob, great question. What I am after, credit goes to Larry Kendall. I want this tape inside people's head, the film inside people's head called their life, to start rolling. I want to hear what's in their head and what's in their heart. And I believe good questions will bring that out. I also believe the follow-up questions will bring more of that out. And, the fine owner of Referral Flow, Joseph Chiavatti, told me several months ago, it's your reaction to the first question followed up by a really good second question that can get a really, really deep conversation going. And it's safe to say that I use it for sport purposes. I find it engaging. I really want to know the stories of people's lives. And, we've been around the Story brand for a little over a year now, right? And I want to hear other people's stories. The moment I open my mouth and I don't ask questions, now I'm talking about a story that I already know called My Life, and it's rather predictable and very familiar. What if I could get other people to talk about the story of their life? And then whatever business I'm in, potentially we stay in touch, we become friends, we become closer. I understand, their goals and dreams. And I feel highly connected to a group of people. And now I'm in a profession where I get to connect with people in the front of a room, and then I get to connect deeply to people on Zoom and one-on-one. And it goes without saying, I have a great number of people who I've met with for an hour, and they said, I can't believe I just shared all this with you. I know exactly why they shared it with me, because the questions brought that out of them. They were vulnerable and they were honest, and it's pretty cool.
I think there's two things that deserve a spotlight there. So let's go a little bit deeper on number one, the genuine sense of curiosity that you must employ to get people to open up. Because it's the difference between a pleasantry of how's it going. It's a formality. It might as well be hello. And predictably, it's going to be one of 3 to 4 answers. And when it's not, you're kind of caught off guard, right? Have you ever had somebody be like, it's absolutely terrible today, Erik?
Right. And you want to get away from them.
Yeah, right. And so it's usually let's get the pleasantry over with so we can deal with the task at hand. And that is, so how's it going? How's your day? Those types of questions. But you approach this with a genuine sense of curiosity. And secondly, you realize that what happens in that first question is what sets the stage for the tone of the conversation. Their willingness to go there with you, to take the story. And Joseph absolutely nailed it, that it's not necessarily the question you ask, but the way you react to them. Give us an example of how that works and how you've seen that in your own life turn somebody who probably didn't want to have a conversation with Erik Zimmerman about what was going on in their life into somebody who felt like not only this guy cares, but this guy might be excited by what I have to say.
Credit to Ninja for putting out the TED Talk by Celeste Headley that said, of all of these rules, stop pretending like you care and just care. That if you go into conversations caring, that will be huge. And then we have to remember some of the other rules that we teach in Ninja. And I do this every single day with coaching clients who are trying to have 50 live interviews, who are trying to stay in flow, who are trying to grow their warm list. And here's some of the rules. No yes or no questions. There are very few yes or no questions in my arsenal. Okay. So then we go open-ended: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Okay. Each question, whenever possible, each question is embedded in the answer of the previous question. And then you mentioned Peter Parnig. When you get stuck, you can simply say, tell me more about that. So I'll role play this with coaching clients and I'll say, tell me what you're asking your people in your database, your 50 live interviews. And, it's clear to me that when people call to check in on people, it sounds like they're calling somebody in an old folks home. It's terrible. I've seen this live. How's everything going? I wanted to check on you. And the energy of this conversation just drops. It's like, did you go to the activity room yesterday? Did they heat your applesauce? It's not substance. It's not what will make that film in somebody's head called their life start to roll. So, what's the best thing about your summer? How will that impact the rest of your season? What does the rest of the summer look like? What is your favorite vacation spot? What do you do when you go there? What's your favorite thing about that spot? Just out of curiosity, what was your favorite summertime activity as a kid?
Yeah. Yeah. Every one of these questions, you talked about this, but we could go deeper because it starts a story rolling in their head. There's a movie in all of our minds and it starts to play, whether it's a pleasant movie about the popsicle that you used to enjoy when you were a kid and the way that they were always a quarter and then they went to 75 cents and it was
Right.
disruptive to the whole community, or something that's in front of them right now. What are you guys sneaking in before the kids go back to school? And the more specific those questions, the more likely the person is to give you a response that allows you to then go to the next level. And I think so frequently about the depths of Ninja. We always talk about how the Ninja 9 is the answer, right? If you need to generate business and you want to have a life where you have high income per hour so you can have a life outside of real estate, then the Ninja 9 is the answer. But the Ninja 9 has so many layers to it. And inside of habit number 8, 50 live interviews each week, inside of just that habit, there is the ability to do what you said. You could call 50 people up and you could be like, hey, how's it going? And yeah, you're going to take it off, right? You will have completed that. Or you could engage 50 amazingly meaningful conversations that access the most important things in their life, which are inevitably going to align with Ford. And you're going to uncover the things about their life that may present an opportunity for you to create value. And you may create value from a standpoint of, I know that they love their boat. The pontoon was the example of yours, right? They love the boat. One thing you could do is get them a waterproof case for their phone that floats, because every time, listen, you are my lifeline to getting those appointments that I want to have with my physical therapist. And I can't have that phone going to the bottom of the lake. I was thinking of you and I thought of this and it made me chuckle. I'd love for you to have it. Suddenly you're attached to the meaningful experiences that they have on the lake. The other side of this is the more they let you into their world, the more you're going to see the change coming in their lives that could drive their real estate.
Yep. I so appreciate that, Rob. And I'll give you an example. I was sitting next to a person who had a birthday that ended in 0. And rather than saying, how are you celebrating? I said to her, how do you see the next 10 years of your life being different than the last 10 years?
Wow.
And it's that classic look to the upper left. Now I'm starting to dream, right? This person actually said, one of the many things I would like to do is to buy a piece of investment property.
Crazy.
And I now challenge myself when I have these conversations, how many questions, it's not so competitive like this, but how many questions does it take before I would add somebody to my warm list? I'm getting to the warm list eventually. But I want to be very clear about this. It is the spirit of curiosity, the spirit of giving, right? I'm looking at the universe in a very creative way. I'm learning about people. And I say, first think about being in the relationship business, and the real estate business will follow. When I hear people say, I get that, but when do you set the hook? When do you say, I love referrals? I say, if you ask the right questions, you never have to say those things.
You have talked with me about your title, right? You have this official title inside of our world, but as you serve your clients, there is a more specific title you feel fits how you want to show up in their world. What is that?
As I come across more and more industries, I realize that I have clients, customers, patients. I want to be the client, customer, patient engagement consultant.
Yeah.
If I believe that if more people did that, they engaged, there would be so many more wow experiences that people would have and really make an impact in the world and the service industry and retail. And
Yeah, there really is no limit to it. And it's really it's simple when you see that there's a framework. And the framework that I have written down as we've been talking today, you must come to the conversation from a place of genuine curiosity. And when you ask the intro question, there's probably going to be a ramp up, which is something about the weather, or, I mean, you have to get into conversation. But when you ask that first question that allows them to expose just a little piece of their world to you, your reaction is exactly what drives this forward. Make sure no yes or no questions are involved. Ask open ended questions. And always remember the ninja concept that your next question is embedded in their answer. And if you can just use those 4 items and remember this, you will have a flowing conversation that leaves the person you're talking to thinking, my goodness, Erik Zimmerman is a remarkable human being.
And whoever asks the questions will engage people like that. A quick example, the difference between how was your weekend and what was the best thing that happened over the weekend. The latter one is going to open up, it's going to make it way easier for the questionnaire, as you call them, to ask the next question. If you ask, how was the weekend? And they say good and fine, then it's back to you. And we're going deep with this. But my thought is the questionnaire should be talking no more than 20% of the time. And let's get the person that's hearing the questions to be talking 80% of the time, which then leads to this awareness that you have to be careful about interjecting your own story to one up the story that you just heard.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who had been to Spain and France. It would have been so easy for me to say, I've been to Spain and France, but what good does that do? So what did you like about Spain and how long were you there? And what's your history with the language? And what was your favorite part?
Were you ever able to cross that bridge? Were you ever able to ask a question that, say my favorite part was San Sebastian, the Basque region was just spectacular, the food was incredible. Were you ever able to connect an experience that you had through a question of, what's your favorite flavor of paella?
Well, so that's the beauty of it. The more the person that's answering the question recognizes my questions are getting more specific, most of the time they sort of what I call read the room. And then they say, you sound like you have a lot of experience with San Sebastian. And now the follow-up note says, saw the stuffed mushroom caps that I had with the beer in San Sebastian, and I thought of you, and a tie there. The other point that's I think very important is if we're going to forward and record, let's record some really good details.
Yeah. It's the forward conversations matter so much. And if you can record enough information and act on it. I mean, you could have a database full of details on people, but never do anything with it. Or you could digest that information and create a follow-up plan in your head before that conversation is even over. And it was the example I used of, showing up with a 90 shilling for Larry in a company branded cooler. Sure, that's really simple stuff, but you are spot on. And the truth is, that if you plant those seeds, if you have the conversation, you synthesize what you talked about and write some of it down, whether it goes into your CRM or it goes into your special notebook, wherever it is, the act of doing that is going to activate your reticular activator, and you are going to suddenly find a opportunity to create value for this person around that.
You've got it. Spot on.
Erik, it's truly a pleasure to talk to you about this. And I deeply appreciate that you have such a perspective around this that evolved over time. If there was a single step that a ninja could take this week, because you are a master of this, and that is one of the things that I've always known. I've had many meals with you, and those meals always have a question. And I'll tell you when I know it's an Erik Zimmerman quality question is when the conversation is flowing naturally, then you pose a question and it disrupts the pace of our interaction. It causes somebody to get out of the rhythm because it's thought provoking. If there's a single question that you see as either the silver bullet for now or a great starting place, what question could somebody use to have one meaningful conversation or to start one meaningful conversation this week?
I love that. So I would start a question with, what are you most looking forward to? And then you fill in the blanks. When you get home tonight, for the weekend, for the rest of the summer, for the next 2 years, and then my bonus tip is when you ask a good question, be okay with silence. And therefore only ask one question at a time, because you're going to want to break the silence with another question. And if you notice silence after you ask a question, you have unlocked the film in the person's head to say, I'm going to let this roll now.
Yeah, I have to admit something. Yesterday, I had a meeting with Larry Kendall, and I asked him a question that caused a little bit of pause. It made me uncomfortable, so I asked another question before I let him answer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is a very, very important notice here, that if you're going to allow them the opportunity to come up with a meaningful response to your meaningful question, you've got to give them the space to do so, because these are not the types of things that people get asked.
Nope. And how's it going is you can answer quick. Larry, by the way, said if you're in the front of a room and you have 5 seconds of silence, it feels like an eternity. The same goes when you're the questionnaire.
You are spot on. You are spot on. I think this is it right here. So it's the middle of July, and we are starting all of the summertime wind up things. I mean, school is going to be here in 6 weeks for some people and 8 weeks for others. But what do you have going on will be the segue into some of the most meaningful conversations, or what are you most looking forward to? Let me rewind that. The what are you most looking forward to ... question is so applicable right now. I think of it, if you ran into somebody at Target and they were shopping for school supplies, they were shopping for the twin extra long bed sheets that only college dorm rooms use that size, and you can't find them anywhere. So what are you going to do before so-and-so goes back to college is going to be a very different conversation than what are you most looking forward to before you have to drop him off again. Erik, thank you for your time today. Thank you so much for your willingness to go a little bit deeper on a ninja concept that you've mastered. And sometimes it's really challenging to draw up all the work that you did to get to the point where you're truly a master questionnaire. But you broke it down really well, and you gave us a starting point. We really appreciate it.
Rob, if you want to get better at anything, what do you do?
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
We'll leave you with that.
Well, yeah. Want to be a better question asker? Ask more questions, get more reps, and then really listen to the answer.
Thank you, Erik.
Thank you.